Logan Sargeant has had yet another pointless weekend in Formula 1, and it seems like time has run out for the young American driver to prove himself to Williams or any other squad out there. After Vowles admitted that Williams is looking to pursue Sainz in the following period, it spells even worse news for Sargeant, who has little to no time to convince his team that he can score points in a regular manner. With this in mind, as well as the Perez situation in Red Bull being extremely volatile even though he received a 2-year contract, are we going to see Sainz in Williams, or will his choice lay with another squad on the grid? It goes without saying that Logan Sargeant has the hottest seat on the grid right now, not because it's the most wanted one, but because he's under fire from his bad performances. Earlier in 2024, Vowles said that there will be enough time for Sargeant to prove himself next to Albon. However, that narrative has changed now, as the drivers' market has opened up and Williams are looking for strong contenders from 2025 onwards. This is something that Sargeant has further fueled up with his bad race in Canada, one in which he spun out on the 4th lap and caused out the safety car. When talking about it, Sargeant said, "It was tricky conditions, obviously not the way I wanted it to go, just not good enough. Too many mistakes from my side. 2 very punishing ones. For sure, I'm very disappointed with myself after feeling like I was driving great this weekend, so move on and just look ahead. I think the first one was obviously an excessive amount of water on the track. I tried to make it work on the inters and just asked for a little bit too much on the brakes that caused the first mistake. The second one was a little bit unexpected, just caught me out. But the water on the track was the same for everyone, and while the conditions were definitely tricky, not many drivers managed to spin the way he did so early in the race, causing additional damage to the team in the car repairs and what seems to be an already financially challenging season for them. As of now, Sargeant has been outqualified by Albon 30-0, and while he can brag with the fact that he outqualified Perez in the last 2 races, and a total of 5 times during their joint venture in Formula 1, Sargeant is still without any points this year. If we're to take away the disqualifications of Hamilton and Leclerc last year in Austin, as well as the penalties that were given to the drivers ahead of him, Sargeant would still be without that 1 point he scored in his career. And that just goes to show that his place might not be in Formula 1. So far in 2024, his best result was P14 in Jeddah, and the fact that Albon started the season was not so great goes to show that the Williams is definitely headed downhill now that teams like Racing Bulls and Haas are scoring in a more regular manner than them. This is why Vowles urged Sainz to make the right choice for his career, as well as help his team in trying to return to the midfield and potentially even fight for race wins. Because if we're to look at the entire situation, there's only 2 guaranteed seats left for Sainz, Williams and Sauber, and it would be heartbreaking to see the smooth operator not fight for wins next year. But with the new regulations knocking on the door and Mercedes' engine dubbed to be the best one out there, Williams could be in the mix of scoring regular points. And if Sainz is to join a project team, he might as well join one with experience, culture and status in the world of F1. After all, he can see where Williams is slacking off, and now that the infrastructure of the team, one that has been dubbed outdated by James Vowles, is slowly but surely being upgraded to all the latest standards, Sainz understands that the mission of Williams might be helped a lot from his side. This is why Vowles hasn't shied away from commenting publicly about Sainz's commitment to the Grove-based squad, and when talking about it to a greater extent, the team principal of Williams said, "Sainz is a race-winning driver who last year against all odds beat Verstappen in Singapore with a brilliant drive. That is not the first time. He is intelligent in how he approaches things, logical and incredibly quick. The number 1 target for us is Carlos." Williams isn't the same Williams it was 3 years ago, and by the definition of the fact that we've been talking to Carlos, it shows you that we have changed our approach. Indeed, Williams has signed some high-profile technical staff from other teams, primarily from Alpine's fallout. However, the priority for the Grove-based squad is to work on the outdated facilities, a project that has been heavily boosted by the prize money they earned by finishing P7 last year in the Constructors' Championship, after being 10th for quite some time. Nonetheless, Williams are now extending a lot of their working manners, and it seems like Sainz would be the cherry on the pie on a project that definitely has the potential to launch them into the top 5 on the grid. Given the fact how volatile the grid is and how quickly a team of Alpine's profile managed to find themselves in the back of the grid in a matter of a couple of months. But Sainz himself was very diplomatic when talking about his future in the sport, And while he appreciates the good words that he received from James Vowles, he did not want to throw dirt on the other candidates that are in a rush for his signature. When talking about this situation, the Spaniard, who was widely believed to have already signed for Williams and that the news should be announced by the start of the Barcelona Grand Prix, went on to say, "I appreciate James's interest and the kind words he has always had towards me. The same can be said about how I feel towards him and his team, but the reality is that I've not yet made my mind up about where I'm going to go next year, because right now in my head, I want to focus every weekend on fighting for podiums and wins. So it is very difficult to put your mind into the future when you have such an important weekend coming up all the time." But the time is ticking for Sainz as well, and with limited options, it's now evident that he will not be signing for teams like Red Bull or Mercedes, at least not until 2026. Wolff has openly stated that the seat is reserved for Antonelli, and if there's a driver who could sit there in 2025 and not be the Italian superstar, it would be someone who agrees on a one-year deal with the Silver Arrows. Regardless, Red Bull's situation, despite looking closed up after Perez was granted a 2-year contract by the Austrian squad, is anything but that, as Horner has immediately put pressure on the Mexican driver to deliver performance as early as in Barcelona. It's evident that the Constructors' Championship is in a huge danger for Red Bull, because they have only one car finishing up high-scoring points vital for the team. And with McLaren and Ferrari catching up fairly quickly, the Austrian squad is at risk of losing the title they've held for the past 2 seasons. Still, this is an option that Sainz would have to wait a bit longer than anticipated, probably 2026, since Perez's contract reportedly is on a 1+1 basis, meaning that 2025 is secured, but for 2026 it would depend solely on his results. Therefore, Sainz does not want to rush any decision when talking about the deadline of his future. The smooth operator went on to say, "I'm going to need some time to sit down with my management and have a conversation with myself, and then decide where I want to go. But now there's nothing decided. I don't know if we can wait until the summer break or if the decision will come earlier. I honestly don't know at this point in time." As for Sauber, it goes without saying that while they do appreciate Sainz a lot and have chased him for quite some time now, they're also running out of patience and might not be as kind to him as he would have hoped. Despite the close connections his father has with Audi due to his Rally Dakar experience with the German manufacturer, it's not a guarantee that they would take him under any conditions, especially with a lot of young and experienced drivers available on the grid. Of course, to compare Sainz and Ocon makes no sense, as we know who is the better and more achieved driver in their separate careers. However, if Sainz's mind is so hot and cold oriented, we might as well see a shake-up that would put the Frenchman on the German team. There's a lot of interest from Haas as well, and in the following period, we should be able to see how the future of these two drivers will unfold. But one thing is certain, Sainz has gathered a lot of attention and praise from Williams, and he might be the missing link to restore the fame and glory in the Grove-based squad that has been missing for quite some time now. With all of this in mind, do you think that Sainz will sign with Williams? And more importantly, do you think that it would be the right choice for his career at this point? Let us know in the comments below, and once you do that, make sure to click on the video that's appearing on your screen right now.